Hello, 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 and welcome to our election coverage. My name is James Darian, and today this is going to be just a small little locals exclusive. I am recording on Zoom, so hopefully the audio will be all right, a little bit better than when I go through OBS and have to manually edit it. But yeah, so here we are. I am just wanting to talk to you guys about what I'm thinking about tonight's election. It has been a crazy, crazy election season. Of course, we have, well, we've had the buildup of a lifetime, I think, and more than enough for many people's lifetimes to come. I would like to hope. So, my thoughts here are just going to be kind of basic. Um, Well, I say that now, but knowing me, I'll probably overthink a ton of stuff while I get into this. So, we're at a point where we've had all of the Hunter Biden releases, we've had all of the different, um, we've had all the different propaganda from the news outlets and the media. Of course, the media pretty much controls what people think at this point. That's basically what they do. They sway public opinion. Um, the government controls policy, the media controls culture. That seems to kind of be the way things flow, and as the saying goes, politics is downstream from culture. So we're at a very interesting spot because so many people don't trust the media, and the partisan divide in the country has grown exponentially, especially uh, even though people don't trust the media, it's been especially fed by the media because now there are loyalists who follow their party's media, who follows the media on the other side. And then there's people who have their own independent media for each side. And those ones tend to go even farther down the rabbit hole than what you might see from the mainstream media, which honestly, I don't think it does a very good job for either side. As far as the left is concerned, they're only gonna push things as far they're only gonna push narratives as far as it doesn't hurt their piggy bank. Pretty much degrade the other side and villainize them as much as possible. And the right side does this too. So left does that, right does it. Both sides really just go all out, and it definitely has it definitely has created this vitriol um, within the masses because even the mainstream elements can't get along with each other, that's when you know there's a big problem because independent partisan actors, yeah, they're probably not gonna hide their feelings. They're gonna be pretty explicit. When you start getting into the mainstream doing that, that's when there's that even if people are growing skeptical of it, that's still a really big problem. So I feel like that's sort of fanned the flames a lot. We're now going into an election where one side thinks that the other is electing a dementia-ridden old man, which again, there's good arguments for that, and where the other side thinks that their opposition is voting in someone who is worse than Hitler. I believe even Sam Harris said something like that because something about like Hitler having something about it being an argument about like people with morals. Like, yeah, Hitler was like horrendous and evil, but like he had a moral code for his country or something. Whereas he says Trump just does whatever he needs to do regardless of morals. So that's a weird analysis. That is a very odd analysis to hear. Though if you think I don't really want to get too deep analyzing that, but like if you think of Hitler as being like someone trying to form an empire and do the whole conquest period, that that technically falls into the period of like high honor and high honor and virtue as part of a culture, and Hitler's morals and virtues are seen as explicitly terrible, which once you start murdering tens of millions of people, yeah, I think we can clearly establish that your moral virtues are misaligned, but it doesn't mean that they don't exist. So it's a weird argument, but that seems to be the argument against Trump and his supporters, that they are essentially virtueless Nazis. Yeah, it feels weird to say, but that's that seems to be the way about it. So, what does this mean for the election? Well, we have the media on both sides claiming fraud's going to happen. We have a lot of people being worked up on both sides, and we're seeing the cities border up for a reason. We're seeing businesses and cities cover all their doors, hammering and nailing away to try to create their own barricades and protect themselves. This is civil war, I would say. I would say this is I so civil war is kind of weird because it's not necessarily like battlefield war. It's just that there is an explicit war for the dominant culture and moral and ethical values of the US at this time. What that means for us is it's weird. It's really weird to consider this because the US does have a culture. There are stereotypes of what the US is, and those stereotypes tend to be kind of like, what are the hallmarks of American culture? People who love guns and individual liberties, yada yada yada. And currently, there is a battle over what that is. What does this mean? With how much everyone's boarding up their houses and businesses, you can already see most people, at least in the cities, see this as um, lots of insurrection, which may or may not be necessary for civil war. That's actually a very good question. Could you have a fully ideological, mental civil war that does not result in any kind of battles or physical movements? I do not know. Uh, I would say that at least in part, these events can happen in this way, but we're entering into a crazy time. That's kind of the high and low of it. We're entering into a crazy time. It is, what would be the way to say it? It it's a period of uncertainty, at the very least. It's an argument for the heart and soul of America, for sure. It's an argument for the future that we want, and having done my initial research into what causes empires to thrive and fall, and knowing that there is sort of this lifespan to an empire, and like all other things, empires do not want to die. Nothing wants to die. And when things start getting close to falling apart, they kick, they scream, they destroy, they throw a tantrum, essentially. That seems to be the general path of things. So it's weird, and I know this is more about the philosophy or political philosophy, I suppose, that's going on around the uh, the elections more than it is about the election itself. But this is kind of where we are from the ethos. As far as the election itself goes, there's going to be tons of calls of fraud. And to be totally honest, there's probably going to be tons of fraud. In what direction it will go and whether it'll be enough to totally sway the election in either direction, who knows? I would simply by the fact that the that more Democrat led states are sending out ballots without request, that considering all those mail out ballots that are just going out without people even ordering them, that tells me that it is those areas that are going to be the most disastrous with this and most blatant with fraud. But there's probably small scale fraud on both sides going every which way. It's it's it it's unreliable, and I don't know a way where we could make it fully reliable. There's always, because in the end, someone needs to count the ballots. In the end, there needs to be some group of people who are acquisitioning this stuff. There's going to be someone who, even if you have a digital system that counts ballots, you're going to need to there's going to be someone who makes that system. So there's going to be bias, no matter what. No matter what. So there is that problem, and the validity of ballots is also going to be a problem. We're seeing a lot of propaganda used to discuss sort of it's using very selective terminology to say when the ballots have been counted. It's saying, in many cases, they're saying all ballots must be counted. Well, what about fraudulent ones? What about ones that don't meet security standards? Yada yada yada. So, and then they're like, no, all ballots have to be counted. It's just like, well, what does that mean? And Tim Pool discussed this on his podcast with Jack Posobiec recently, and that was it's a good question. It is something that I would like to consider, but how should I put this? I kind of, to an extent, I don't think the fraud matters. I think it's the perception of fraud that matters. Nobody cares about a problem if they don't see there as being a problem. And because the media on both sides have built it up to be such an astronomical problem, no matter what happens, even if it was a perfectly legitimate election, there would likely be chaos that follows. That's kind of where I'm coming at this from. I suppose I'm taking a defensive stance in response to this year's election. We're all going to need to be cautious. We're going to need to keep an eye out. We're going to need to look out for what's going to happen. There's going to be a lot of political consequences from this and a lot of cultural consequences from this, because regardless of the riots and whether or not this determines the victor of the culture war or not, or whatever is going on with that, we can say that politically we will see certain things from both sides. If Trump wins again, there might be a repeal of Section 230, which would ironically end up give, which would ironically end up basically ensuring that the major tech platforms are able to maintain their monopolies endlessly. Because the fact is, they're pretty much already violating Section 230 with all of their editorializing, and at least from my understanding, and maybe they're not. Excuse me. Maybe they're already violating it. So rather than change the law, we should just be going through with lawsuits. And the problem is, even when we run lawsuits, there end up being settlements far too easily, far too quickly. I think to an extent it's actually become too cumbersome to go through the process of litigation. And that seems to be by design because our government is made up of lawyers at this point. Even in the Federalist Papers I've been reading, they've been it was brought up in the Anti-Federalist Papers that a government made by lawyers is a massive problem because lawyers make their money fighting and defending on the law, arguing about the law. That's how they make their money. So of course lawyers are going to make the law as complicated and as expensive as possible to go into any kind of litigation or discussion. They design it that way on purpose. And it's going to be there is a conflict of interest with our legislature and what would be good for the people because of this. Because the fact of the matter is they make more money, get more power by making things more anti-civilian, making things more expensive for the individual. So I know I'm going in all sorts of tangents and directions here, but the point is, so if we're looking at Trump's potential victory, yeah, there's going to be tons of insurrection. There's going to be tons of just cities getting burnt down. And dear Lord, Trump should deputize police everywhere to just be able to arrest rioters and violent actors. I think that's almost a necessity if he wins. And honestly, if Biden wins, he should still do it. He should probably still do it. But yeah, this is going to be a crazy season. I mean, it's been a crazy season up till now. We're basically watching the World Series of politics right now, and it is I mean, no matter what happens, this is going to be like a World Series where there's going to be tons of fouls and red cards pulled, and eventually the deciding factor of whether or not someone actually got out in the final play is going to be called into question for weeks. And they're going to refuse to basically crown a champion until they figure it out, which I have no idea what that means, what's going to happen from this. To be honest, I have no idea where we're going right now. It's really just a crazy time. But even still, well, even still, it's worth noting that we're going to get through this. Maybe the U.S. will not be an empire in some 10, 20, 30 years. Maybe. But we're going to get through this time, and there's going to be tomorrow. So I want to focus more on what tomorrow will bring. Tomorrow will bring protests, no matter who wins. Okay. Tomorrow will bring riots, no matter who wins. Okay. if Trump wins, we're probably going to see institutionalized monopolies more so than ever before, which is kind of ironic. And also, um, I'm not surprised. I am not that surprised. That this is my biggest gripe with Trump, and I think it's a problem that that he just isn't the person to fix. He wants to fight for all the average Americans, but the thing is, his idea of fighting for the average Americans is getting them jobs in massive companies and making those massive companies more powerful to hire these people. I don't feel like he looks out for small business owners. Not enough, at least. Uh, if Biden wins, basically the same thing. Basically, the same thing will happen because he's been given the opportunity to. He will institute more lockdowns, more small businesses will close, and on not just small businesses, medium-sized businesses will also close, and the biggest businesses will be emboldened. They will be allowed to do virtually whatever they want, except they will have to listen to some new regulations, and they're going to do the thing, man, and just not be not be having people not wear masks and blah 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 whatever word salad comes out of Joe Biden's mouth. So politically, we're in a precarious situation, and I don't see any way where the small business owner wins. Not really. I see institutions winning either way. If Joe Biden wins, there's going to be a big push for critical theory, especially critical race theory, and there's going to be a lot more racism explicitly. There's going to be a lot more reverse racism, which is just racism in the other direction, as is anti-racism. Anti-racism is just racism in the other direction, and there's going to be a lot of just craziness. I don't know any other word to put it. There's going to be a lot of craziness. If Trump wins, there's going to be a fight against critical race theory, but again, he is not a great advocate of his own positions and of what he stands for. So in the end, the small businesses will suffer, while big businesses may not feel as much of a need to go into critical race theory as they would under a Biden administration, where critical race theory does get conflated with diversity training. Trump is never going to do a correction that critical race theory is not diversity training. One of his biggest issues is that he does not correct people on their mistakes and their conflations of definitions and beliefs, and the conflations of the words people use. He is not well spoken enough for that. He's a great hype man, but he is not an eloquent man. So that's going to be a big problem. That is going to be a red mark on his presidency if he gets the second term. And I believe it is one on his first term, because he is not smooth. to put it simply, he's not smooth. So we're gonna end up being in a we're probably gonna end up being in a society where things are based on power dynamics, and there's gonna be a lot of turbulent issues, demands for reparations, no matter who wins. The difference is with Trump, there's going to be some amount of backlash, some amount of people bringing up that this is a problem, and maybe that'll be enough. Maybe that'll be enough. And for me, just knowing that he is the only candidate speaking out against this stuff, that's the only thing that kind of gives him my vote, because initially I was a chaos voter for Trump. At this point, I'm basically the opposite, because he is the only one who can maintain some sort of mental stability by arguing against this stuff. Even the libertarians with Jo Jorgensen have completely sold out on critical race theory. And maybe she's just being naive, but that's what from everything I have seen, that is what I have been able to tell from her. So this is beyond institutional at this point. This is everywhere, and the only way we could really see a fix is if there is a total cleaning of house. There needs to be just there needs to be a complete deconstruction of the administrative systems within the US. Because the fact is our administrative bureaucracies are just too much. There's too much room for offense and the ability to weaponize that. Because every single edition is another possible crack. And that is incredibly dangerous. So I hope you guys are getting out to vote. I hope you guys are just hunker down for the next like week or two. Pay attention to what happens, and if there is a peaceful if there is a peaceful movement in your area to celebrate your side, if there is just people gathering and just saying, "Hey, this is what we believe. Don't forget about us." I mean, go do that stuff. Be an activist in what you believe. If you want your beliefs to live for more than a generation, if you want your beliefs to not die with you, be something of an activist, just a little bit. It doesn't need to be anything big. You don't need a sign. You don't need all the gear, the hats. Just show up and talk to someone. It doesn't take much. Anyhow, that is my feelings about the election. I am hoping that I will be able to upload this as a locals exclusive as I promised, but now that I've recorded it, I'm realizing this is probably going to be way too long for me to do that. Anyhow, it has been great talking to you all. I will talk to you guys later, and yeah, look forward to the Federalist paper coming out tonight, because if my software got completely messed up, I had to uninstall and reinstall it. And after my computer was already being a pain in the butt, I had to completely change my BIOS in order to get it to just boot up. So it's been it's been one of those days. Anyhow, pleasure speaking with you guys. I will talk to you guys later, and be sure to follow me on Gab, Minds, and Twitter to see what I am up to. Where I don't really post too much about what I'm up to, but I'll do a lot. I do a lot of retweeting of people who I think have interesting or funny ideas, and I will be posting throughout election today. Once we start doing more stuff later on, you know, just going over what's all happening. And so Gap in Minds, I am at James Darian. Over on Twitter, I am Commutation C. So, and you can see that from either my how to spell commutation from either my locals page or YouTube or Twitter account, or YouTube or BitChute account, wherever you watch this, because it's not looking like it's going exclusive on locals at this point. Anyhow, it's been a pleasure talking to you guys. And if you are watching on YouTube or BitChute, like, subscribe, comment below. If you're watching on locals, like, subscribe, comment below. And if you're not on locals, please follow me there. It's it's basically the only source of income I have for this project. So I really appreciate every subscription I get there. It means a lot. There is a free coupon code if you guys just want to be able to go there, get that little bit of exclusive content, and it will be more once I reach that 100 followers mark, where I can upload without the limitations that I currently have. But get there. There's gonna be more exclusive content. There's gonna be more special, just like one-on-one conversations. I will have live chats. Maybe not right now, but in the future, we're going to be starting to do live chats and just all this stuff. So please get there, get here, wherever you are. I'm just glad you're part of my community, and I will talk to you guys later. Anyhow, see ya.